Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm here to talk about goal expectations, and specifically unrealistic expectations that I personally have had over my goal journey and I have seen other people struggle with as well. We tend to have these expectations of the progress that we're going to make on our goals, the success that we're going to have, and then when we don't meet those expectations because they are unrealistic, we feel like a failure, we quit, and we give up on our goals altogether. So today I'm going to talk about 3 really common unrealistic goal expectations that I have heard a lot of people talk about and I have seen my one-on-one clients struggle with, and then I'm going to give you 3 tips to setting realistic goals. So the first unrealistic expectation that I talked a little bit about last week when I was talking about the all or nothing mindset struggle is jumping from one end of the spectrum to the other and expecting it to stick. I talked in that video about how everything is on a spectrum. We've got one end of the spectrum where we're doing nothing, making 0 progress on our goals. We've got the other end of the spectrum where we are perfect and we're doing it all. We cannot expect ourselves to just jump from this end to this end and be able to maintain it for an extended period of time. Maybe you're able to willpower your way through for a day, maybe even a week, but most of the time, if we jump from one end to the other and we expect ourselves to be able to maintain that level of change for a significant amount of time, an amount of time that is necessary for us to achieve our goals, we're just not. And then when we give up because we've jumped from one end to the other, we just quit altogether instead of going back a little bit and just doing part of it, or even further, because small progress is still progress. I know I say that all the time, but when we jump from one end to the other, we are setting ourselves up ultimately to fall off, because it is unrealistic to expect that we're able to jump from one end to the other. And part of the problem with this is it feels like, well, those are the goals that I need to have, right? I need to be drinking this amount of water. I need to be getting this amount of sleep. I need to be getting up at this time, and I need to start it all right now. And once I just get started, I'll be able to just keep going and it'll be fine. And unfortunately, that expectation typically just doesn't hold true. Number 2, the next unrealistic expectation is that it will always get easier. And you might be thinking, well, Laken, you've told me that it gets easier with time. So why are you, what are you talking about? It does get easier over time. It absolutely does. All of your goals, working on them, especially some of the emotional and mindset work related to your goals. But there will be days that it's not easier. There will be days that it's harder. There are going to be days that you're going to have to decide, am I going to keep going? Is this a goal that I still want to work on? Or do I need to take a step back a little bit? It does get easier over time, but it doesn't mean that it will always be easier. Because as you continue, you're gonna add in more goals, or life is going to change, or your energy levels are going to shift. And so while there might be something that at one point you were consistently doing every single day and it was easy, and then one day you wake up and it's not easy anymore, it doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It doesn't mean that you have to quit, but expecting it to just continually get easier is one of those expectations that has failed me in the past and I have seen other people struggle with as well. And the last and final unrealistic expectation that I have not only had to push through, but I see this all the time, and that is expecting perfection. Expecting that you are going to make perfect progress every single day, especially on those goals that you want to do every single day. I cannot think of a goal that I have set, of something I wanted to do every single day that I have done every day. I have said this in so many places, but I truly do not believe there is something that you can do every day all the time. Life is too unpredictable. Your energy levels are too unpredictable. You're just gonna miss days. You are going to miss days. And that is why sometimes things that encourage you to have streaks or encourage you to hit something every single day, it is almost demotivating, because it is nearly impossible to do something exactly the same every single day. And so expecting that level of perfection from yourself is so unrealistic and is really setting you up to be disappointed when one of those days comes along and you're not perfect and you don't do everything that you wanted to do that day. So let's get into some action. Let's talk about some ways that you can overcome these unrealistic expectations and set goals that you can follow through and can achieve. Because I know at this point you're like, okay, you're right, I've had all those expectations, and you're right, it doesn't always work. So let's talk about ways to overcome that. Number 1 is to start wherever you are. Start with where you're at. What I mean by that is, don't just set a goal because somebody else said that you need to set that goal, or doctors recommend that you drink this much water. A good example that is talked about a lot is the recommendation to get 10,000 steps a day. First off, that's a lot of steps. And depending on what you do for work, and if you're still working from home, it can be really difficult to find the time to get that number of steps in. So let's say you have this ultimate goal, because that's what everybody recommends, is to get 10,000 steps a day. But right now, whatever you're using to track your steps, you look down and you're averaging about 2,000 steps a day. If you were to immediately jump to set a goal from 2,000 steps a day to 10,000 steps a day, you're likely going to fail more times than you're going to succeed. And I don't mean for that to sound so negative, but it just takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to get to something so significantly different from where you're at. So take where you're at, wherever you're at, with whatever goal it is that you're working on, and that's the baseline. That's where you start. Which leads me into tip number 2, and that is to increase it just a little bit at a time. So we've got our baseline, we're starting where we're at. Going back to our step example, right now we're averaging 2,000 steps a day. So maybe we set a goal next week to get 2,200 steps a day. That's still a 10% increase over what you were doing before. Remember last week when we talked about 1% increases? If we were doing a 1% increase on 2,000 steps, that would only be 20 more steps a day. We're gonna push ourselves just a little bit and do 2,200 steps a day. And that's what we're gonna work out for the next week. And maybe we hit it 3 of the 7 times. So then guess what? It's totally okay to keep it the same. You don't have to increase it every single week, month, day, whatever cadence it is that you're checking in with your goals. You don't have to increase it. Staying the same is not failure. Staying the same doesn't mean that you have failed or that you're doing a bad job. It just means that you're still working towards it. You're still working on figuring out how to incorporate those extra 200 steps into your every single day. So then maybe that week you stay at 2,200. Maybe it takes you 2 more weeks to get to 6 of 7 days. Likely again, like I talked about, perfect is really, really difficult. Doing something every day is really difficult. But let's say you did it 6 out of 7 days for 3 weeks now. Okay, I'm ready to level it up. And again, another really small amount. Maybe now you level it up to 2,500. Little tiny increments. And keep working at that until you get to where you want to get to. And the good news is, you don't have to know how long it's going to take you. You don't have to have that plan all mapped out. That is one of the things that I know I struggled with, as I was like, okay, well, I'm at 2,000 now and I'm going to get to 10,000. And so if I increase it by 1,000 steps every week for 8 weeks, that at the end of 8 weeks, I will be at my 10,000 steps. And while that's a beautiful plan, I know that life is going to happen. And there's going to be weeks in the month that I don't have a lot of energy and I don't want to increase my steps by 1,000 a day. So instead, I'm going to level it up when it feels right, when it feels like I'm doing a consistent job at sticking to what I was doing before. Then I'm gonna increase it a little bit. And it might take me 8 months to get to where I want to get to, but I don't have to know that right now. I don't have to make those decisions in advance in order to know what I want to change about my goal. You can make those level up decisions or stay the same decisions as you go along. And I want to interject here and give some suggestions on how to incorporate this into your power sheets, because I know that if you're setting goals in a month, you're like, well, Laken, how am I supposed to upgrade my goals every week if I am setting my monthly goal at the beginning of the month in my power sheets? So option 1 is that you actually wait till the end of the month to level up, which is completely fine. Stick with that goal for a month, and then maybe you'll feel ready to increase it even a little bit more for the next month. Option 2 is that you use the daily section and you make it more than one line. So on the first line, you have week 1's goal and whatever that goal is, and then you check off the days. And then in the second line, it's week 2's goal. Maybe it stays the same, maybe it goes up, and you just go over to where those days start and start checking them off there. Yes, there are going to be days that don't have check marks, but it is more important to me that your tools are useful to you and helping you achieve your goals than they look perfect at the end of the month. Option 3 is just to be vague in the daily section, right? Maybe you just put step goal, and each week you go in and evaluate, okay, my step goal is X, and then you have a sticky note that's stuck onto your tending list that says what your step goal is for the week, and that's what you check off in your power sheets on the daily section. If you use another goal setting system like the Moxie Life or just your own system, it's probably easier for you to check in every single week. I'm not saying that weekly is the right cadence either. You've got to figure out what works best for you in terms of changing your goals. But the important thing to remember is to only increase it a little bit at a time, and that staying the same is not failing. And tip number 3 for setting realistic goals is something that we have talked about before, and that is to have different options of your goals for different energy levels. Every day, you're going to be a different person. depending on what you have going on in the world, sometimes depending on the weather, depending on how the night's sleep that you got before, your energy level is going to differ. And so when you have options, you have a low, medium, and high option, you're able to be more realistic about what you can achieve on that particular day based on what you've got going on. So for example, let's say you have a reading goal, and before you were setting an unrealistic goal of reading 30 minutes every single day, but you were constantly finding yourself not being able to find 30 minutes straight in order to read every single day. So maybe you set a goal of, okay, at a minimum, I'm gonna read 10 minutes a day. If I have the time and I have the energy, I'm gonna shoot for 20 minutes a day. And then on the days where everything is going right and everybody is cooperating, I'm gonna read 30 minutes a day. By having those options, when you have a day where you only, and I say only with like all of the quotation marks in the world, because 10 minutes a day of reading is an incredible goal, especially if you were going from 0 or from 5, any sort of improvement, 10 minutes a day is great. But if that is your minimum, but then you don't feel bad when you do that versus when you were setting a goal of 30 minutes. Because if you had a goal for 30 minutes, but you only found 10 minutes, how often would you be like, well, I'm just not even gonna do it, right? Just like we talked about last week, that all or nothing. Well, if I can't do it all, I can't do it perfectly, then I'm gonna do nothing. And whether that's a spectrum, which works better with something like time reading, 10 to 30 minutes a day, or if they are 3 distinct things. The example that I always give is tidying up the apartment at the end of the day. The ultimate awesome goal would be that I did it like the entire apartment, right? I tidied up the entire apartment, all of the rooms at the end of the day, wiped down all the counters, and like everything looked nice. How often do you think that happens? Very rarely. So if I set that as my goal, that would be very unrealistic. My go-to goal that I try to shoot for is at least getting the office tidied and making sure that the office is in good shape, so when I walk into it in the morning, I feel good about the state of my office. But I also have a third option, and that is just to clear off the desk. And so if I am feeling low energy or just not in the mood to clean that night, I have a goal to just at least get the desk cleared off. I'll be honest, sometimes I don't even do that because not every day is going to be perfect, but I have options based on how my day went, what my other commitments were, and where my energy levels are at. I would also not recommend implementing this on all of your goals right this second. If you have a goal that you have been struggling with, a goal that you feel like when you set it, it maybe seemed realistic, but now that you're thinking about it, it might be slightly unrealistic, let's create some options. Let's create a low, medium, and high option. And give yourself permission to choose one of those lower options if that is what your day is shaping up to be. So that is going to be it for this video. If you do feel like setting unrealistic goals is something that you struggled with before, maybe one-on-one coaching would be a good option for you. I know that it has really helped a lot of the people that I've worked with to have somebody else's brain listen to what their life is like and give them recommendations or suggestions for goals that are going to fit within their day-to-day lives. The link to apply is always in the description box, and you can always send me a DM on Instagram if you want some more information or just want to chat and see if it's a good fit for you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching.